What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Jericholic8704, here to welcome you to another installment of Raw is Jericholic8704. So we have for you today Raw from July 5th, 2004. Of course, this is the day after Independence Day here in the United States of America, so of course this Raw emanates from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So this is the Raw in which Eugene is the general manager. So, usually after the little signature thing, they'll show a flash, like a little still image of Bischoff, and the crowd will boo. And last year when Austin and Bischoff were co-GMs, they showed both of them. And for a bit, it was Johnny Nitro and Eric Bischoff, like they were a father and son. But today, we had Eugene. Of course, the crowd cheers. So Raw opens up with its usual pyro and everything, and then all of a sudden there's a few guys in the ring with some chairs, and we have Tomko, Tajiri, Jerry the King Lawler, Stacy Keibler, Coach, and Ric Flair makes his triumphant entrance. His theme song hits before anyone else's, and then finally Chris Jericho enters, and obviously we're in Winnipeg, so Jericho gets a massive ovation. He's wearing a Winnipeg Jets t-shirt, just, to get a little more love from the hometown crowd. And Eugene comes out in his sports coat. He has a sports coat on over his usual ring attire, which I thought was funny. And he says that tonight there will be a championship match, and whoever wins the game of musical chairs, they will be the one to get that championship match. So the music starts. They start playing Pop Goes the Weasel. And Stacy is the first one to, start the whole, game going. She's walking around the chairs, and of course King, as soon as he sees Stacy Keibler walking, he follows in right behind her. And the music goes out, Stacy Keibler and King both sit down, and there's a moment of silence, and then everyone bomb rushes to find a chair, and Tajiri is the odd man out. He gets out, he's the first one eliminated, and then Coach is just laughing up a storm. He's making fun of him, and Tajiri just sprays the mist right in Coach's face. So Coach is, he's waddling all around the ring. He can't see a damn thing. The ref takes away a chair. Obviously, everyone advances to the next round except Coach, who immediately just sits down as soon as the music hits, which I thought was kind of funny. But this was a very, very, very funny segment so far, and it only continued to get funnier. The next person out was King, this is the best one. King tries to sit on Stacy Keibler's lap, and then in an attempt to remain in, he pulls Stacy off her chair, sits down, and then puts Stacy Keibler on his own lap, just because King, as we all know, is a fucking creeper. That is his gimmick. So King is out, and then we have Flair, Stacy, Chris Jericho, and Tomko left. So they do a little bit more walk-in. Flair's starting to strut. He's starting to get all cocky and arrogant. And the music goes out, and Ric Flair pushes Stacy Keibler to a pretty good amount of boos. And people were not very pleased to see Stacy Keibler exit the ring in such a fashion. So then we have Ric Flair, Jericho, and Tomko left. And the best moment of this entire thing is Ric Flair has officially gone insane. He is just bouncing on the ropes. The music plays for maybe 2 or 3 seconds. And Ric Flair is like near the turnbuckle, just, dancing around. And then as soon as he realizes that he's out, he flips his shit. He's shaking the ropes. He's wailing around the ring. Everyone's laughing at him. He wants to fight the ref. He wants to fight the camera guy. He is pissed that this championship match just slipped through his fingers because he was styling too much. So then we had Jericho and Tomko left. They both walk around the circle. The music plays for what seems like forever. The music stops right as Tom goes in front of the chair. He goes to sit down, but Jericho pulls the chair out from under him, which I have to say, obviously Tomko just took the bump right on his ass. But if I were to sit down knowing that there wouldn't be a chair below me, I would do the most phony sit down just because I'd be so afraid of falling. Now, granted, these are wrestlers. They know how to fall. But still, knowing, it took, I don't know, I just felt like there was a massive amount of fortitude from Tyson Tomko to just sit down knowing that there wouldn't be a chair there. I would not be able to do that because that fucking sucks, dude. I don't know about you guys, but, sitting down after, that is, one of the worst feelings in the world when you think there's a chair there. Not only is it because, I guess Tomko had a little bit of security knowing that there wouldn't be a chair there, because there's nothing worse than when you think there's going to be something to stop you, but there isn't. So you kind of stop where you think you should, and then when you realize that you're still going, it's the scariest feeling in the entire world. So I guess Tomko just knew, all right, my ass is going to hurt for a little bit. But I don't know, that's just instantly what I thought of when I saw this. So Jericho, rams the chair right into his gut. And he sits down, and he is declared the winner. The crowd goes absolutely bonkers for Jericho. And Eugene announces that he will challenge Randy Orton tonight for the Intercontinental Championship. The crowd kind of booed the Intercontinental Championship announcement. I guess they all assumed that it would be the World Heavyweight Championship match. And then the weirdest part about this was King was like, I didn't know it'd be for the Intercontinental Championship. If I had known that, I would have tried extra hard to win. And it's like, all right, King, like, let's think about this for 1 second. It's not going to be for the tag team championships, considering this is a singles competition. It's not going to be for the women's championship, considering you're not a woman. And it's either going to be for the Intercontinental Championship or it's going to be for the World Heavyweight Championship, the title placed above the Intercontinental Championship. So King was obviously just doing his job and hyping up the match, but still made him kind of look like an idiot. So then we had La Resistance versus Rhyno and Venis. Oh God, guys, I really tried to care, but I just didn't. And the thing about La Resistance is, like, Rob Conway, Sylvain Grenier, they were fine. There was nothing wrong with them. They were just a couple of young guys. They were just trying to wrestle and everything. But even when I was a kid, whenever I would see La Resistance come out, I'd just be like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just a snooze fest. And it's not because they were horrendous wrestlers. It's just, I think even when I was like 6 or 7 years old watching this Raw, I was already tired of, like, the heel foreigner. And for fuck's sake, we're still dealing with the heel form. We got Rusev, we got Jinder Mahal, list goes on and on. This gimmick will always be around, at least as long as Vince McMahon's in charge. But, like, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just not patriotic. Maybe that's what it is, even though I would say I'm moderately patriotic. I don't know. I love the United States of America. It's a great country. But I mean, I can never really get behind, like, the heel that hates America. I'm just like, all right, dude, if you hate America, a lot of people do. Like, there are days where I hate America. So it's like, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like a really tired gimmick. And even in 2004, it wasn't holding up. It's not the 80s anymore. You know what I mean? And, like, we say that in 2017, but we could have said that in 2004 because La Resistance, they were getting boos, sure. But I can't help but think that, they could have been something more. So anyway, the match. Well, the match is really basic. They worked over Rhyno for a bit. Rhyno got the hot tag to Venis. He hit some clotheslines and some slams. Venis hits a sit-down powerbomb for a near fall, and then Rhyno and Sylvain Grenier invade. So this was kind of stupid. Rhyno and Sylvain, they're not the legal men, but they invade into the match, and then Sylvain takes Rhyno out. And then Sylvain Grenier, even though, he's not the legal man, he just kind of walks in and, hits, they hit their tag team finisher. And it's just like, you're allowed to do that in a tag team match? Like, I know in a tag team match, the rules kind of vary from time to time. But he literally just walked in. The ref was like, hey, what are you doing? Get the fuck out of here. But he was just like, fuck you. And he just hit the finisher. So, like, I don't know what the whole idea of that was. Like, I don't get the tag team rules because they change every day. And I know WWE released that, like, rule book, and like, they're breaking that rule book every single time. But, like, how is that not a DQ? Like, the guy it's not like they did it behind the ref's back. Like, I mean, you see that all the time. Like, they do it behind the ref's back. But they just did it right in front of him, and then they got the win. So, whatever. Half a star, if that. I don't know. Just a nothing match. So then we had a backstage segment with Evolution, which was ripped, like, literally straight out of, like, a high school drama. Or, like, even, like, one of those, like, weird, like, badly acted high school videos about bullying. You know what I mean? Like, it's the perfect setup. It's, like, the three popular guys who let the loser into their clique just so they could manipulate him a bit. But they've had enough of it. They're like, man, I'm so tired of having Eugene hanging around with us. That's literally how Randy Orton sounded in this. And Ric Flair was just so angry because he said he's out there playing Ring Around the Rosie. He got his party game wrong because of Eugene. So eventually they're walking and they stumble upon a giant moon bounce, which happens to be Eugene's office for the night. Which, honestly, that would kick so much ass. Like, if I were Nick Dinsmore, like, obviously he needed to be in there for those segments, but I would just stay back there as long as possible. I'd want to hang out in a moon bounce. Dude, I fucking love a moon bounce. The problem is I am way too big for a moon bounce. I'm way too tall, I should say. Anyway, I definitely make the weight limit because I'm really skinny, but I'm too tall for a moon bounce. So Eugene mentions how since Kane had made fun of him a few weeks ago and acted like he was his friend, and then he ultimately punched him in the face, that he needed to take some revenge out on Kane. And Batista interrupts him and is like, whoa, you're not telling me that Triple H is going to fight Kane, are you? And Eugene's like, no, of course not. You're going to fight Kane, Batista. So that got big reactions. And then he said, finally, since La Resistance has been on such a tear, I thought of a team that could finally take the World Tag Team titles at Vengeance. And then he says, it'll be you, Ric Flair. And then all of a sudden he gets sidetracked because he finds his action figures lying on the floor next to him. And Ric Flair says, hey, it's me and who? And he says, it's you and me in a tag team versus La Resistance at Vengeance for the World Tag Team Championships. After this, he runs back into the Moonbounce to play a little bit more, and Ric Flair is livid. He's like, I'm going to kill the son of a bitch. And Batista and Orton have to hold him back because, he's just so irate that he has to team with Eugene. So then we had a Triple H promo. Triple H drops the Webster's definition of a miracle, and then he says that his definition of a miracle is Chris Benoit's title reign. Triple H says he's going to answer the question of God versus evolution at Vengeance. And he says no one can stop him, not even God. And he said he was going to prove that evolution is the truth. Evolution is key. Evolution is above divine intervention at Vengeance. And from what I can remember, Triple H lost at Vengeance. Triple H single-handedly disproved Charles Darwin's theory of evolution here on Monday Night Raw. You heard it here first, folks. So Edge's music hits, and Edge comes out. He's all hot, and he's angry, and he's flipping shit around. Not really, but, metaphorically. So he says, ever since he watched Raw in 2003, Evolution has been dominant, and now it's time for a change. I guess he's Owen Hart. Edge says whether Orton wins or loses, Edge will beat him at Vengeance. Edge tells Triple H that the rest of Evolution is going down, and Edge is going to be the person to take them down. Triple H kind of laughs it off and is like, yo, you're not the first person to tell me this. And he just spouts out a bunch of names that he's beaten over the years. And he said, what do you think about that? And Edge just starts throwing bombs. He and Triple H brawl for a bit. This looked really, really cool. And, obviously, if you were watching this back in 2004, you would have thought that this would be like a route they were going for a SummerSlam match, considering how over Edge was as a babyface at this time, and Triple H was a big heel, and you thought maybe they'd put the title on Triple H, and maybe they'd have Edge challenge for the title. They could have done like a title versus title match at SummerSlam. Obviously, they were going to do the thing. They're going to have Orton, win the title at SummerSlam, but it's really promising for Edge, and Edge really didn't do much at SummerSlam. He had that random triple threat with Batista and Jericho for the Intercontinental Championship. But, that match was kind of a turning point for Edge's career because that's when he got booed in his hometown of Toronto. And, that was a big moment for Edge because that's what kind of kickstarted his whole heel turn that really made him a star. So I guess it's a blessing in disguise that he really didn't have this big hot match with Triple H because damn well I shouldn't say that because they were cheering all the heels. And from what I can remember, they cheered Triple H over Edge. They probably would have cheered Triple H over Edge regardless. But I think even the fact that Edge was just kind of in a mid-card match that really didn't mean anything, and considering he was the hometown boy, he should have been the one who was cheered the most, considering Edge had been pushed way further than Batista or Jericho at this point. I guess it makes sense that he would have been the one cheered, but I guess if he wrestled Triple H at SummerSlam in a one-on-one match, I think he would have been booed, and I don't think the effect of the boo would have been as drastic, if you know what I mean. But then again, it could be. You got to go back and forth on this. Maybe I'm just spouting nonsense, but to me, I think it's better the way it worked out for Edge's career, even though he could have had a really hot match with Triple H. So Triple H and Edge, they're brawling and everything, and then Evolution comes out. Randy Orton, Batista, Flair, they all try to pull him apart, but Edge, he bails, he escapes, he jumps over the ledge, and he escapes from harm, and he goes back, and then, Evolution goes backstage. So then we had Kane versus Batista, and I expected Batista to be in the ring by the time Kane made his entrance, because when they came back from commercial, Kane's music hit. Batista gets a full entrance, and I was like, why is he getting a full entrance? Because he was literally out in the ring a second ago. It's not like there was like a segment and then maybe like a backstage interview. He was literally right outside the ring, and then they went to commercial, and he had to go back to make his full entrance. Like, are you serious? And it wasn't like Batista, like Batista later on in his career, he had pyro, and it's not like, okay, we bought the pyro, we have to use it at least. No, Batista didn't have any like special effects or any special props or pyro that they used in his entrance. It was a completely expendable entrance. I don't know why he had to make it. I guess they just, it's a way to put him over as a star. Sometimes you kind of look like a jobber if you don't get an entrance. So whatever. It was merely an observation. So Batista gets the advantage early, but Kane reverses a whip and hits a sidewalk slam. Obviously this match, spoiler alert, for those of you who really want to know the result to Kane versus Batista from July 5th, 2004. You can go watch it on the network now. Matt Hardy runs in for the DQ in like 3 minutes into the match. But I will say, for the 3 minutes that they were in this match, they could have easily phoned it in and just, did some holds and maybe like one high spot. But they hit all their big moves with the exception of their finishers. That was really the only thing they didn't hit. Batista hit the spine buster, Kane hit the side slam, and they were hitting each other with big clotheslines. Kane booted him out of the ring, and then Matt Hardy came down. He didn't do a run in. He kind of walked in. Matt Hardy just kind of walked in with this incensed look on his face, and then he attacked Kane. He threw him in the stairs and just beat the shit out of him. And like 5 refs couldn't hold They couldn't hold 6 foot, 215-pound Matt Hardy back. He was able to withstand their grip and attack Kane a little bit more. So after commercial, there's a backstage interview with Todd Grisham and Matt Hardy, and Grisham asks if the no DQ stip at Vengeance, because spoiler alert again, Matt Hardy will be facing Kane in a no disqualification match at Vengeance. Todd Grisham asks if the no DQ stip will help Matt, and Matt said that what he did out there to Kane was nothing compared to what he was going to do at Vengeance. And then Todd Grisham asked about Lita, and Matt Hardy just kind of stared at him for a bit, and he's like, I'm not talking. He's like, but what about the speculation that her baby really isn't yours? And Matt just kind of looked at him for a really uncomfortable amount of time and then just bailed. So then we had clips of the Diva Search in Los Angeles. This was just fucking terrible. Like, you saw some familiar faces. I spotted Candice Michelle, Christy Hemme, I believe Carmella Desiree. And yeah, it was just, aside from that, there was really, Candice Michelle wore the most revealing, I don't even think calling it a top would do too much justice, because it wasn't even a top. It was just like a cloth that she just kind of draped over her. It's like as if she wore a scarf and she didn't tie it up. You know what I mean? If you just kind of like wear a scarf around your neck, that's literally what this top was. This was the lewdest top I've ever seen in my entire life. So, and the weirdest part about this is like, Coach is portrayed as like such a dork on these shows, yet he is the one who's like raking in, and he's being the judge of all these women. It's like, who are you to judge anyone, Coach, considering Coach is such a goofball on these shows? You know what I mean? Like, it seems so, like, if anything, it should be like Evolution who's like judging these women, because like they're the top stars. They know top star material when they see it, not fucking Coach. Like, what? Anyway. But between this, they show a bunch of revealing shots of all the girls, and then in between you just hear Coach go like, huh, which was just fucking creepy. So that was awful. So then we got the highlight of the show, Intercontinental Championship match, Chris Jericho versus Randy Orton. So during Jericho's entrance, they showed clips of him winning the Manitoba Order of the Buffalo Hunt Award. I never heard of it. Apparently, it is a very prestigious honor in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And they said it was it was awarded to a native of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And then they started spouting a list of names that had won this award. JR did, and he said Mother Teresa, Pope John Paul II, Jimmy Carter. And from what I remember, I don't know if any of those are from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. But I might be wrong. Anyway, I could go line by line with what happened in this match, but I'm going to keep it brief for you guys. So Orton starts out strong. He gets the heat on Jericho, and then Orton tries to throw Jericho out of the ring, but Jericho lands on the apron and hits a reverse elbow off the top. The crowd was so into Jericho. They were going crazy for everything, and towards the end of the match, they really thought that the Intercontinental Championship was going to change hands on a go-home show to a pay-per-view. So Jericho hits an enziguri, but Orton gets his foot on the rope to save his title. Orton goes to the outside, and Batista comes out on ringside heading into the commercial. And when they're back from commercial, Jericho is doing, the 10 punches on the top rope. And Orton Irish whips him into the ropes, and Batista low bridges Jericho. And Jericho, of course, flies out of the ring. And Batista throws Jericho's shoulder first into the ring post. So Orton starts focusing on the shoulder. He gets some arm ringers, and, he holds in the submission. It was during this time, during the heat on Jericho's elbow and shoulder, that King called the Buffalo Hunt Award the Bullwinkle Award, which I thought was the funniest line in the entire world. So Jericho and Orton, they go back and forth. Orton's working over Jericho's arm. Jericho is selling the arm very well, I might add. There was a moment where Jericho was going for a superplex, and I thought instinctively, like, okay, he's going to hit this damn superplex, but, Jericho's arm is supposed to be hurt. How is he going to hoist over, 6'3", 240-pound Randy Orton when, his arm is pretty much out of commission? But fortunately for Jericho and the match itself, he didn't hit the superplex. Orton countered and he threw him down onto the mat. Jericho gets up and Orton hits a big crossbody. He got a lot of height, a lot of hang time. So he hits Jericho for a big near fall. The crowd is going absolutely nuts. Both get back to their feet, and Jericho goes for the bulldog. Batista gets on the apron, but Jericho hits a springboard drop kick, and the crowd loves it that Batista finally got his, but you can see Orton kind of, getting back to his feet. He's setting up for an RKO, and the crowd knew exactly what was coming. Jericho turned around, and much to their surprise, he fought out of the RKO, and he put Randy Orton in the walls of Jericho, and he had it cinched in. The crowd was going ballistic. It was so loud. It was really, really cool to see, and even though I knew how this match was ending, it was really exciting. Just because, they kind of swerved you a little bit, considering it was like, okay, Jericho gets distracted, Orton hits the RKO, 1, 2, 3. But because, they gave you this little glimmer of hope, the fans were eating it up. They were going absolutely insane. Batista gets on the apron one more time. Jericho's had enough of it. He charges Batista, and then Orton tries a roll up. He gets on the ropes. He gets the leverage, and he gets the 1, 2, 3. Orton pins Jericho. WWE always harkening back to that tradition of beating you in your hometown. Jericho loses. The crowd, of course, is upset. But, again, Intercontinental Championship match on the way to a go-home show where there is an Intercontinental Championship match? I don't think so. So this was a good match. I really liked it. It got really, really great at the end. I mean, the middle part was a little boring, but it really wasn't that bad. But the ending was really worth it, just to see the crowd go absolutely insane. And the fact that these two were really able to make this crowd believe that even despite it being a go-home show to a pay-per-view, they were going to do a title change. It was very, very awesome. So we had Triple H and Eugene. They're both bouncing around in the moon bounce backstage. Triple H asked Eugene if they have a deal, and Eugene says, yep, of course we have a deal. So Triple H stumbles out of the moon bounce. This is actually a very funny part. Triple H is struggling to get out. He rolls out of the moon bounce and he slams hard on the ground. Eugene pokes his head out. He's like, are you okay? And Triple H is like, oh, you fucker, I'm fine. So Flair comes out and he asks him if he still has to tag with Eugene. And Triple H is like, I really didn't get to that. So Eugene is going insane in the moon bounce. He's jumping around, and Flair is going just as insane. He's freaking out, and he's like, are you serious? Why do I have to tag with this guy? And Triple H says, no, don't worry. He's going to get us the World Championship back, and tonight he booked a 2-on-3 handicap match. Benoit and Edge versus Eugene, Flair, and Triple H. So then we had the worst part of this Raw, because Vince Russo returned to Raw for one night only. Envelope on a pole match, Victoria versus Nadia versus Molly Holly. So in this match, there was just an envelope on a pole, and in it was a contract for a future women's championship match. So basically, what they did in this match, it was only like 4 minutes long at most. They just dumped Nadia outside the ring, and Victoria and Molly Holly did high spots for the entire time. And granted, they were very good high spots, you know what I mean? Victoria hit a great... She actually hit it on Nadia, so I guess I can't hate on Nadia too much. Molly Holly throws Nadia and Victoria outside the ring, and Molly hits a crossbody. Meanwhile, during this match, Trish Stratus is on commentary, and Trish mentioned that she has a crushed wrist, and she was speaking very softly into the microphone. It was very, very weird. So Molly hits a superplex on Victoria, but while they're both selling the injury, Nadia sneaks in and she grabs the envelope. So Nadia is celebrating her win, and in the best moment of this entire Raw, Trish Stratus comes out, she's all smiles, she's like, oh my god, honey, congratulations, you're going to have a match against me, it's going to be the greatest match ever, but you're going to have the match when I'm ready. And then all of a sudden, Trish just decks her right in the face. This was so brutal, and Trish Stratus is like, you know what, I think I'm ready. So she yells at the ref to ring the bell, and in our women's championship match, my personal favorite match of 2004, Trish Stratus defeated Nadia. Forget Omega Okada. This was a 6.25 star match. Fucking awesome. So then we had more clips of the Diva Search. I just wrote kill me. I think that's what I was thinking when I was watching this. It's the same thing every week. It's just these girls like, I don't know if Coach was going to say you're in. And then he told me I was in and I was going to New York, and I was so happy. That's literally what it all is. And they told Christy Hemme that you're going to New York, and Christy Hemme had like a fucking seizure. Like, ugh, God, it was just, I'm not looking forward to all these stupid Diva Search competition. So then we had another backstage segment with Trish. She's, just gloating to Tomka, like, oh my god, you see how I beat Nadia? Oh, so great. And then she comes up to Lita, and she's like, "Oh, Lita, how you doing? Because I heard you were pregnant and everything." And Lita's not answering, and she's just seeing through Trish's bullshit. And she's like, "Oh, I guess your hormones are running wild. I'll talk to you later. We can always chat whenever you feel like it." And she's like, and then before she left, Trish Stratus said, "And to think, they call me a slut," which was just such a bitchy move. Like, heel Trish Stratus is just so great. So then, before our main event, we had Triple H and Eugene backstage, and the thing about this segment is they repeated the same thing they did last week, where Triple H was just uncomfortably close to Eugene, just whispering right in his ear, and he basically just told him the same thing he told him last week, like, "These people aren't your friends, I'm your friend, you hurt anyone who's not your friend, I want you to get angry," and Eugene's like, "I'm angry," so it was just another 2 minutes of Triple H just uncomfortably close. I will say, this one wasn't as bad because the camera was panned out a little bit, so I didn't feel as, like, claustrophobic and as, like, up close and personal with Eugene and Triple H. There was a little bit of distance, so it wasn't as bad, but still, just, I was like, oh, God, give him some space. Give him, like, you're bursting my bubble. You were bursting Eugene's bubble, and thus it was bursting my bubble, so take that as what you will. So then we had our main event, Ric Flair, Eugene, and Triple H versus Edge and Chris Benoit. So they start getting the heat on Chris Benoit. He gets beat up early. Eugene, Flair, and Triple H are all triple teaming him. So Benoit takes out Flair and Triple H. Eugene hits him from behind and tags in Triple H. Triple H and Benoit go at it for a bit, and Benoit goes for a crossface, but Eugene breaks it up, and Flair pulls Benoit out of the ring and whips him into the steps, leading into the commercial break. I will say the Irish whip from Ric Flair was pretty weak. Benoit had to kind of run as fast as he possibly could into the steel steps, so that kind of sucked for him. Back from commercial, Triple H is beating up on Chris Benoit. Benoit cuts off Triple H and gets the hot tag to Edge. Edge fights off Flair and Triple H for a bit, and Edge hits a flying double clothesline. Edge spears Flair, and then he goes for a lariat on Triple H, but Triple H ducks out of the way, and Eugene gets hit instead. Edge sets up for a spear, but Eugene's all pissed because he got attacked by Edge, and he just tackles Edge and starts beating the shit out of him. This prompts Triple H and Ric Flair to double team Edge for a bit, and then they get the heat on Edge. Triple H works over the arm for a bit. Eugene gets tagged in and continues working over Edge. The crowd was chanting Eugene stop, but I believe JR and King thought they were chanting Eugene sucks. So of course they had to make it as if like, oh, they don't really hate Eugene, they hate what Triple H is doing to Eugene. But I heard Eugene stop, as in like, stop what you're doing. Don't hurt him, hurt Triple H. But because the crowd was still kind of pro Eugene at this point. So Flair gets tagged in, he works over the arm some more. Flair goes for the figure four, and Edge hits an enziguri, and Flair does the Flair flop, which is always a pop for me and for everyone else in the world, because who doesn't love a good Flair flop? Benoit and Triple H get the tag. Benoit starts his comeback. Benoit hits the Germans on Triple H as well as the headbutt. Triple H goes for the pin, and Flair breaks it up, and then Edge and Flair brawl on the outside. Edge goes for a spear on Ric Flair, but Ric Flair kind of dumps him over the top of the barricade, so Edge is kind of out of the ring. He's out of the match for the time being. Benoit, I believe, hits the ref. It was an accidental ref bump, and Triple H goes for a chair, and Benoit is able to get the chair out of his hands, and he goes to hit Triple H with it, but Eugene is able to get the chair out of Benoit's hands. He's going to hit Benoit in the face, but Eugene reluctantly decides not to, and he goes outside the ring. Benoit tells him he did good. He's like, don't think about it, don't do it. You know who's right here. Trust your gut and everything. So Triple H tries to hit him again, but Benoit gets the sharpshooter on Triple H. So Benoit's back is turned to Triple H. Benoit's back is turned to Eugene while Triple H is facing Eugene. And Triple H is telling him like, oh, come on, you got to do it. You got to help me. You got to save me. I'm in pain. Come on. And Eugene reluctantly, he takes a big gulp, and he just whacks Benoit right in the back with the steel chair. So with this, Eugene is escorted out of the ring by Ric Flair. Triple H gets back to his feet. He hits the pedigree on Benoit, and that is the 1-2-3. That is the win. It was an okay match. It was mainly just used as a go-home angle. But for a go-home angle, I thought this was kind of weak. It was just kind of more about Eugene and not really about the World Heavyweight Championship match. Now, granted, I know Eugene's a very integral part of that match, but still, it really didn't do a lot to really get me excited for Vengeance, which, of course, is this Sunday, considering, this is a Raw from 2004. So other than that, that is it for me, guys. I will see all of you later. My name is Jericholic8704. I just said I would see all of you later, so fuck that. I'll think of something new. My name is Jericholic8704, and you stay classy, YouTube.